Wow. Okay, turn this thing to the side. How do I find? Turn off the camera. How do I find my stuff that I need now? Okay. Um, did you send me a trampoline already? I think this is it. No. I don't know if this is the news from this morning or from last night. I'm gonna go take a shower. I'm gonna leave you guys watching the TV. It's 5:20. I'm gonna go look up my child to get ready for school. This week is bed already. Um, maybe the lady so. Hi Jojo. Alright, I'm gonna put it back the TV. I gotta be careful when I come back. I'm gonna go take a shower, come back. Make sure come back and turn this bloody camera on. How is everybody doing? I'm Melissa Shakatov. So yeah, watch that. Is this a mess from last night? But whatever. I fell asleep. They already give him the president already. I'm just reading. Wash my eyes. All right, people. Keep listening to that.
story this morning. It's the morning. It's the morning. It's all blurred out. But at some point we'll get through Nevada, Arizona, and Michigan.
And the simple thematic truth, Nora and team at the desk, the Trump campaign said for the better part of 2 weeks, the former president has never polled better than he is currently polling. If he just gets a tick above where he's polling, 48, 49 in all these battleground states, he will win them all. That theory is playing out over and over and over. He was being polled accurately, and he pulled a little bit more than those polling averages to provide the victory in Wisconsin, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and we've told you Michigan and Nevada are setting up very well for him, and possibly also Arizona as well.
It's an excellent point. Thank you, gentlemen, and Scott MacFarlane. Donald Trump will return to Washington claiming a mandate with this big win tonight, and he will also have a Republican-controlled Senate that is back in the majority after 4 years, which will allow him to install loyalists throughout the government, even new choices to the Supreme Court if there are retirements. Explain what that could mean in terms of his legislative agenda and enacting change.
Might seem like the die is cast already, but every one of those Senate seats remaining, the more Republicans can get in that majority, the more it bolsters Donald Trump when it comes time to confirm a cabinet, when it comes time for a possible Supreme Court nomination, to get all his legislation through. Every race means something right now. So we'll watch Michigan, we'll watch Pennsylvania, Nevada. They all have currency and leverage for Donald Trump, who on January 6, 2025 will have his election certified by Vice President Harris. I can't get past the human story here. There may be no more polarizing political figure in modern times, but I think everybody can reflect that 116 days ago, he got shot at a rally. I was there in Butler, Pennsylvania. Any number of people I met at that rally, we still carry some of that with us. It was a seminal moment in our lives to be ducking bullets at a Secret Service protected rally. He got hit by one and kept going to the rallies, kept walking out on that stage to those microphones. You mixed that with his brand of being a fighter and having courage, that iconic image, pumping up that fist, blood dripping down his face. Hard to imagine that didn't have an outsized impact, not just in Western Pennsylvania.
That photo was by the Associated Press's Evan Bucci, Trump's fist in the air. It was put on T-shirts by Trump supporters, hats,
ads.
It was on the billboards of other candidates and yard signs of other candidates trying to associate themselves with him, saying, I'm a fighter like. And their heads were small and his picture was large.
It also gave him the opportunity, Donald Trump, to say, which I think resonated with many of his supporters, that God had chosen him to survive that assassination attempt. And while some people recoiled at him saying that, it was another emotional connection for Donald Trump with his supporters.
And he gave his speech tonight in West Palm Beach, where it should be underscored, there's another person charged with assassination attempt September 14th on that Sunday while he was golfing at that same area where he gave his speech tonight. That's an apolitical way of connecting with Americans, and it's hard to imagine that didn't have an impact.
And Margaret Brennan, the president has said, promises made, promises kept. He has told his supporters, we will fix it, we'll bring in a golden era. What is his record on that? What's he promising to do?
Well, if you look at what he delivered in the first 4 years versus what he promised, there was a lot that went undelivered. He did deliver on that single legislative achievement that Gary Cohn was the architect of, the tax cuts. But when it came to, for example, building the wall and having Mexico pay for it, it was something like, just a few miles. You have all sorts of different things that were on his to-do list that he did not achieve. Now, being president and dealing with the circumstances you are handed, such as COVID, was pretty extraordinary. There were things that he actually did achieve that he didn't trumpet on the campaign trail because of the interesting dynamic we have in our politics right now. He could have come out there and said, yes, I was handed COVID, but I delivered you a vaccine because I harnessed, science and business and the great minds and leadership of America. He didn't do that. He played more towards some of these things that enraged, that anger, and by the way, apparently galvanized people enough to get in a car and show up and vote on November the 5th. I think we have to all take time to digest this. We're doing it in the moment, but I don't think we are all quite grasping the gravity of sending Donald Trump back to Washington with the word you used, Nora, a mandate. It's not just the man, it is a mandate. They have control in a significant way of Senate and possibly the House. We may not know that definitively for a little bit of time, but this is a really interesting message being sent by the electorate tonight.
All presidents want to act, and they are frustrated in office by a number of things. Tradition, you can't do that because previous presidents haven't done it. They're frustrated by having to get reelected, so they have to be careful about the voters. They're frustrated in some cases about, well, that's illegal, Mr. President. You can't do that, so you shouldn't do it. And then finally, in the most extreme cases, by political censure, by impeachment. All four of those latches are unhooked for Donald Trump. He faces none of those limitations. And he also is, in our modern presidency, the president who has been most easily indulged his own personal desires in using power in his office.
The argument that Kamala Harris and her supporters made is that Donald Trump is unstable, unhinged, and unchecked because of the immunity. That message was used after the many of his chief of staff in particular said that he was a fascist, that he was dangerous, that he was a threat to national security. And the voters today have returned him to office with a mandate, despite those judgments of people who have 4 stars on their shoulders and worked closely with him for several years.
It's not even despite sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
In
without
spite of.
or without any consideration and a deliberate decision to ignore it. One thing we have to acknowledge, I believe, as reporters, is that on the campaign trail, so many voters do not care about how Trump's behavior and conduct are characterized by his critics or those who believe they are guardrails for American democracy. They are sharply dismissive when the points are raised by journalists and by others. This is a fact I have encountered constantly as a reporter. Dismissive. And when you bring up all these different data points about character, conduct, and about how presidential norms have been established for over 2 centuries in American political life, there's a pushback against that kind of assertion about norms, constitution, a constitutional system, and even the rule of law. What we have to also, I think, acknowledge as reporters is we are entering a new moment in America that is volatile, where you do not have an acceptance, broadly speaking, of how the rule of law is defined in the United States and how the Constitution is defined.
How broad is this mandate, which he is now claiming? Because think of some of the things he said openly during the end of his campaign about military tribunals for his congressional critics, about stripping licenses from broadcasters, about, at some point, deporting millions of people in short order. Can he put that all beneath the umbrella of, I've got a mandate, I said this aloud before you went to vote?
And is that the kind of radical change that his supporters think is necessary? Yeah. Yes. Potentially.
We should point out, we've heard nothing from the vice president. Her campaign had supporters sent home, what was it, around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock this morning. We've had no word from the White House as to whether President Biden has been informed, whether he's been watching, whether he will speak to the world about this later today. The only thing on his schedule right now is a security briefing at the 2 o'clock hour. And we expect will still be held, but we'll see if he decides to speak, and then when, if at all, the vice president will speak for supporters, and what even is the protocol? Does she go first and then him? Does he have to go first and then her? We'll see in the coming hours. So far, nobody at the White House has responded to questions about whether there's a change in schedule today.
All this can be traced back to that fateful summer day in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, when he's sitting there with his family and a few key advisors, and he decides to exit the presidential race in the summer. stunning. And now we end up here with this vice president losing to the one person he detests politically more than anyone.
And I would take this all the way back to late May. Remember, it was Joe Biden who said, let's debate,
Right,
right? They rolled the dice.
yes.
Two debates, he accepted, Trump did. Biden
But it was a
screwed it up.
devastatingly embarrassing debate
Absolutely.
for the president of the United
This
States.
all traces back to that.
Massive
May decision
miscalculation.
What a great
But-
historical counterfactual. Imagine if Biden doesn't do that debate. Is he still the nominee?
But Trump supporters would say that that proved what Donald Trump had been telling them, which was that Joe Biden wasn't up to it, that he was too old for it.
Yep.
Without realizing the irony of now we have elected the oldest president of the United States in this moment. You know, one thing that is, as we talk about the projection into the world, one thing that was scheduled, has been scheduled for some time, was the testing tonight of an unarmed ICBM test launch in the Pacific by the United States as a show of force to say, don't mess with us. We're going through a political transition. We still have the most fearsome fighting force, most lethal fighting force in the world. We are at a state of readiness. But now we're going to have to see what these remaining few weeks and months of the Biden administration will look like. This is not an insignificant transition. This is a world already in a period looking at a rising China in a way that is not just militarily threatening, but in the American infrastructure, as we continue to learn that with these disclosures, through reporting, by the way, that major telecom companies have been breached, that Chinese-linked hackers are within the infrastructure of telecom and possibly able to access audio of phone calls. I mean, we have had major significant security breaches in ways we haven't really been focused on because we've been focused on the election. These are the things that are going to land on Donald Trump's desk. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with Vladimir Putin, including reports that the Chinese targeted and attempted hacks into Donald Trump's phone, J.D. Vance's phone, and additional officials? I asked the vice president whether she had been targeted. She would not answer that question to me. I want to bring in Democratic strategist Joel Payne. He has been with us as well all night. And Joel, I want to ask you, what do you think this means for the future of the Democratic Party?
Sure. Well, first, while we're talking about foreign attacks, let's not forget our elections infrastructure were under threat and duress today as well. The FBI talked about all the attempted interventions that Russian state actors tried to make in places like Georgia, and I think that's worth bringing up as well. But just talking about the future of the Democratic Party, I was recently talking to an elected official in the state of Wisconsin. Actually, Leslie and I did on our podcast, Crosstalk Politics, and he foreshadowed kind of the fall off that we saw in the state of Wisconsin with Black voters. He talked about how in urban centers, he is of Dane County, and there was folks in Milwaukee who he said just did not feel a connection to the Harris coalition. They did not feel reached out to. They did not feel engaged. It wasn't for lack of trying. It's just that the connection point wasn't there. There was a bit of a signal. And I know that there are anecdotes like that all across the country within the Democratic Party. Last thing I would say, there was a controversial paid media campaign that the Trump campaign ran after the debate a few weeks ago. It was around transgender operations for prisoners. And I talked to a national pollster who had eyes on kind of some of the internals in Harris World, and they told me that those ads did real damage to Harris. And I wonder if she was ever able to fully recover from some of the damage. I mean, Trump in that paid media program really went to work on Harris, and it was suggested to me that what we assumed was her coming back from some of those difficult public, coming back from kind of a low point a few weeks ago, was not completed. Like she had a deficit to make up because of the work that the Trump campaign did in those paid media attacks in October, and that was something that a national pollster said to me.
Joel Payne, thank you for your analysis. Final thoughts, Ed O'Keefe.
Well, I think we've learned that $1 billion 100-day quest to win the White House is not enough in either regard. We need more time and more money, and I think there's going to be a lot of questions asked among Democrats about how it is you lost Latino votes, how it is you lost women, and how it is they need to campaign to a country that is changing, and clearly worries much more about its pocketbook than about its identity. It's a devastating loss for Democrats who are convinced that we're going to make history, and instead a different kind of history has been made this morning.
John McFarland.
For Democrats who want some check on Donald Trump, the vote counting in California and Arizona this week is critical for control of the U.S. House.
He's a political giant, eclipsing Reagan probably in the Republican Party in terms of his influence. He's probably the greatest ego and sense of impulse of any president in the modern era, and has fewer checks now on him when he's in office.
Margaret Brennan. Nor the irony of a time when we're talking about women's rights at the center of a campaign, and we are now seeing the second woman to lose to Donald Trump in 8 years. And it's something that I think will resonate with a lot of young girls and people around the world who are waiting to see if a female could be commander-in-chief of the most powerful country in the world.
Quickly, I'll end with where I began earlier in the evening. Trump was so calm.
The camera.
Returns came in so calm,
Damn it.
confident. This is someone who's ready to take the reins again. In his view, not startled at all by the presidency once again coming to him.
Trump won tonight as 2024 voters were looking for a leader, someone who would bring about change. And according to exit polls, that change for them was bringing back Donald Trump to the White House. He was propelled by a dissatisfied electorate, dissatisfied with the state of the country, the economy, and the impact of inflation. So an incredibly tight campaign ending with a big night for the Republican Party, a night that was expected to last 4 days, instead ends in a victory at daybreak for Donald Trump. CBS News projects that the 45th president will be reelected and become our 47th president of the United States. The oldest president ever elected in American history, only the second man to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. This is a political earthquake in many ways, regaining the office that he held for 4 years. Trump will have the backing of a Republican Senate to help pass his agenda and bring in his cabinet. What we still don't know is who will control the House in this election. Americans made their voices heard. Thank you for watching, and stay with CBS News for the latest election coverage.
When my doctor gave me Breztri for my COPD, things changed for me. Breztri gave me better breathing, symptom improvement, and reduced flare-ups.
Breztri won't replace a rescue inhaler for sudden breathing problems. It is not for asthma. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before taking it. Don't take Breztri more than prescribed. Breztri may increase your risk of thrush, pneumonia, and osteoporosis. Call your doctor if
You
you're
guys
breathing,
know
chest
that?
pain, mouth or tongue swelling,
Which I
problems
wake up and
urinating,
saw my
vision
laptop
changes, or
earlier,
lightning
and it
occur.
was
Ask your doctor about Breztri.
What can we do? They know they wasn't going to put camera in. Prejudice or cancel, man.
Kids can be angels every day. That's where we come. Cortex, the original 100% waterproof, kid-proof pet food. Browse durable styles at CortexFloors.com today. Why is this so hard? I just wanted a TV. You're still doing that? It's so confusing.
Oh my god, a Roku TV! It's great for streaming and it updates itself so it keeps getting better!
Less streaming, more streaming.
Listen to 48 Hours on Apple Podcasts. An original documentary from CBS reports.
Imagine yourself in Manhattan with no police, no army, no mayor.
The people of Haiti stare down poverty, corruption, natural disasters, and violence. 90% of the guns that are used by gangs in Haiti are American guns. But with an unbreakable spirit and eternal optimism,
There are days where I cry, but we can't be discouraged. We still believe in Haiti.
they're still able to look ahead with hope.
Haiti is on the brink of transformation, a radical shift. Asians are coming together and saying things must change.
Fighting for Haiti, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Let's do it. Let's do
with your face.
Come on, Julia. I will if you will.
You go, gal. You can't get into the market. It's okay. Renting is fine.
Oh, it's bad. Screw cap. Oh, it's bad. It's not true.
Wonderful lemon chicken.
Hot.
I wonder what Serena's doing. I wonder how Serena's feeling.
That's a really good question. No one's asked me that yet.
70 years old, Zach? Yeah. I was 41.
See you 7 o'clock sharp.
America Decides is your place for fact-based, unbiased sporting.
It's the White House, the Capitol, on the campaign trail.
What do you say to us in your park? Many cracks in the Republican Party.
Our reporters, our anchors travel the country talking to voters like you.
About the issues that matter most.
Immigration is really a factor right now.
They're going to be driving your decisions. What would you say to those who say, look, that's just democracy at work?
Listening to you, bringing your voice into our coverage.
I want a strong, proud America.
Is democracy on the ballot in 2024? Let us help you decide. America Decides. Stream our expanded 1-hour program Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on CBS News 24/7, the streaming home of CBS News. CBS Morning Plus, clearly more news, more smart conversation, more money-saving tips, more recipes, more uplifting ways to get you on your way.
Plus, more sports, more weather.
Clearly, more CBS Mornings. Come on, Julia. I will if you will.
You go there.
Superstar coaching, superstar coaching. I want to make sure that my voice is heard, but also lift up other voices.
You 7 o'clock sharp. Are you ready for some tough questions? You're answering my question.
Mind-blowing. What do you love about America? Question is, what is your truth?
This weather crazy. Well, it's better than being cold, but then 81. Age limit on that.
Late night and early morning covering all of this for us. He's across from Mar-a-Lago. He's in West Palm Beach this morning. Tony, good evening, good morning. What can you tell us? What is the latest there?
Gail, you'll be going for a late night and one moment in American history, really a wow moment in American history. One of the greatest comebacks in political history, as many people put it to me last night. Think about this: a twice impeached, 4 times indicted, 1
Democrats' convicted candidate now appears or is at this point the president-elect of the United States for a second time. And inside that Trump watch party headquarters, I noticed there was levels of excitement of exuberance around 9 p.m. that was dancing full on the floor by 11 p.m. And after the network started projecting Pennsylvania and then Wisconsin in Donald Trump's favor, pure joy from his supporters. I asked people to summarize how they were feeling in one word. I got one person telling me fantastic, another relieved, still another vindicated. And then, of course, they heard from the now president-elect himself.
We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened, is this crazy?
Donald Trump addressed his supporters just before 2:30 this morning, alleging to a huge round of applause after the magnets break his will for home and often.
I want to thank the American people for ensuring that honor of me. Electing you 47th president of Europe. I think we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America.
Likely Vice President to be J.D. Vance promised that this political comeback for the ages would now become an economic comeback for America. Trump's crowd of watch night faithful included the CEO of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, Dana White, calling the apparent victory karmic vindication.
This is what happens when the machine comes after you.
Meanwhile, earlier in the night, Vice President Kamala Harris declined to address her own election night watch party at her alma mater, Howard University, leaving her campaign co-director to break the news to an already fitting crowd.
We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the vice president tonight.
A night that began with cautious optimism curdled into something else entirely after Harris was projected to lose key battleground states like North Carolina and Georgia. Georgia, where Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger called the race for Trump before 11 p.m., even as the former president still faces felony charges there for his alleged attempt to overturn Georgia's 2020 results. That is one of several now uncertain cases against Trump, including federal charges tied to his alleged efforts to block certification of the last presidential election. As for what now, well, he said he would fire the special counsel leading that investigation. He's also promised the mass expulsion of undocumented immigrants.
On day one, I will launch a largest deportation program.
Stepped up tariffs on foreign countries, and a public health-related cabinet role for former third-party candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a figure known for his anti-vaccine rhetoric. About his famous claim to act like a dictator for a day, his first day in office, that is, well, you can expect him to greenlight more drilling for oil. But for now, as most Americans say the country has been headed in the wrong direction, there was also an appeal to unity.
We're going to help our country heal. Help our country heal. We have a country that needs help and it needs help right there in the future.
And I'm happy to say that with me here in Florida is our tireless CBS News campaign reporter, Olivier Rinaldi. Olivier, you have one of the hardest jobs on the campaign. You've been following Donald Trump from the very beginning, been to more rallies than I'd say anybody, particularly the CBS team. You're in a unique position to answer the question on a lot of people's minds right now, which is how did you do this?
Well, they call this out like their signature round. This is something that started back in Iowa. It's different than anything that we've seen before. The Trump campaign, we are deputized people that were the super fans on Trump's loyalists, people that were volunteers that actually were tasked with going door to door in their communities. And then we reached 10 voters and we'll get them to turn out for Trump. There will be no whether that be a t-shirt, whether that be a hat, the next tier that
You see that? It's driving people.
I knew the election was going in a direction that was positive for Donald Trump when you told me that you were hearing from inside the campaign and they were looking at the exit polls quote gleefully. It certainly ended up that way for him last night. And thank you so much for your work this campaign season. You can now rest, I would say. I'll send it back to you all in New York as many both of us pass out. I want to know very long night that with that breaking news may have noticed in my story. We still have nothing to return with President-elect Donald Trump as the apparent likely president-elect. Of course, all that's changed, but indeed it has. Joining us local tirelessly reporting for us from Florida this morning, where he's been all night. Thank you. We'll talk to you a little bit later. We're joined now by CBS News Director of Elections and Surveillance Analyst, correspondent Major Garrett. Good morning to you both. All right, so fellas, break it down first. How did Trump pull this off? So we're going to do a couple of things this morning. Anthony's going to walk through the 3 states that so far the former president flipped in this election cycle. And while he does that, he's going to show you some things that are indicative of how that happened. And I'm going to give you some exit poll data while he's doing that to help explain this whole. So let's start in Georgia. From the story of consistency, Donald Trump did his march with the people that needed to win. So you can see it on this map, all these rural areas in red. Now what I'm going to show you, and that was going to be right? But I want to show you the way in which this vote changed from 2020. In many cases across, especially rural parts of the state, he did a couple of points better than he did in 2020. Hitting his targets with rural voters, evangelical voters, and that's what we did the exit poll data to reinforce what you're seeing visually here. Among conservative voters, self-identified conservatives, Trump did 4 points better this cycle than 2020. White evangelicals, 5 points better than 2020. White and no college education, about even. But for those first 2 categories, the arrows and the exit polls tell the story. All right, Anthony, let's go to Pennsylvania. Got everybody watched this going in, and I want to show you because we always went out and talked to voters, went around the Philadelphia area and up into the Lehigh Valley. Again, a lot of local class voters here, a lot of support voters. Now the key here is I'm going to show you the 2020 vote, okay, and compare that in the area, and then watch what happens at Baker Hill. I'll hit it. Morning, he said it. Watch this area here because it's kind of more red, but in 2020 it was kind of more blue, right? So now it came back a little bit more. It's kind of red, more blue. That tells you that Donald Trump jumped it up, swung some of those suburbs. And now let's play over the exit polls and explain what happened to the Democratic coalition. And it's perfectly illustrated by what you just saw in Eastern Pennsylvania among Latino voters. Kamala Harris shed support as compared to Joe Biden, President Biden in 2020. Among young voters, didn't do as well as President Biden did in 2020. And even among women, slightly worse in 2024 for Vice President Harris than Joe Biden's performance. That is the cracking of the Democratic coalition, which showed up in lots of battleground states, but most especially it showed up in the leakage seen here in Eastern Pennsylvania. Now let's round this out, Anthony. Let's go to Wisconsin. Yeah. Wisconsin, we call this, waiting to the night. I created it early morning hours. What we were waiting for was Milwaukee, but that's part of the tale here, which is to say that Democrats need to do well in a couple of key counties in Wisconsin. Dane County around Madison, and then in Milwaukee here. And what we saw compared this to 2020 was that Harris got just slightly fewer votes than Joe Biden, but she needed more because, same story, Donald Trump had run up the score all throughout the rest of the state. Again, with that consistency, and that's how he hit his marks. And an exit poll piece of information that applies to Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. 3 states so far the former president has flipped. For voters who said their finances fell to them worse than 4 years ago, look at that number. 18% for former President Trump, 17% for Vice President Pence. Thank you, guys. All right, Major Anthony, thank you. Ahead, we will break down how the Republicans take back control of the Senate and what it can do for the country. But first, it's time to check the weather.
All right, you see it? So we can get off this plastic drum. Do you like it? No? Okay, what could we do? What could we do? You know, we want to do it.
Your dry eyes still feel pretty
Yeah.
or tired. With Libo, I can feel
No.
prescription dry eye drop is only a protective layer for the number one cause of dry eye, too much tear evaporation. For relief that's remove contact lenses before using Libo. Wait at least 30 minutes before putting them back in. Eye redness and blurred vision may occur. What does treating dry eye differently feel like? For relief that feels, ask your eye doctor about prescription Libo.
Remember this? Colgate didn't always wear sunscreen. Yes, other brows elevated. Let's do something about it. Number 7's Future Relief Serum reverses visible signs of sun damage with a world-class peptide technology. Number 7, everywhere, just reverse.
Let's review. We're not going to talk about traffic or weather. If anyone brings up lawn care, I will handle it. Posting can be extremely difficult for young homeowners turning into their parents.
Remember this? Take that.
Okay, he's still drinking.
Oh, look at the cat.
No, nope. Let's try again. You wouldn't mind. It gets ugly. You can either take it off or I'll take it off. Yeah, Progressive can protect you from becoming your parents, but we can't protect your home loan when you bought one of us. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor tracks your glucose in real time, and over time, it can help lower your A1C. This is progress. Learn more and try for free at freestylelibre.us.
Ahead, there were big concerns heading into this election about disinformation and other threats to our voting system. David Bender will join us next to tell us how the system held up. Plus, we'll take a look at how Georgia flipped back to the Republican side. You're watching CBS Morning, so thank you for that. We'll be right back. Come on, Julia. I will if you will. You know that. That's right.
I want to make sure that my voice doesn't also lift up other voices. You can't write a better script.
This brain surgery we got on
Yes, like listen to these children close to Russia. World prepared for this trend. Definitely not. Let's go across the phone. It's time for this. Seconds on CBS. That's Paramount Plus.
Go to the ends of the earth right now. Got something crazy. At the beach with the stars.
Here we are. Yes, it's like up there.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
Experience thought-provoking,
Innovative,
and truly original exploring.
look for a telescope at both.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
I'm a voracious consumer of information and constantly curious. I want to know the basic facts of every issue and to press into the heart of the matter. Information is the currency of democracy, and that's what we bring to the table every Sunday.
All the time.
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
Sports agents gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the breaking news with highlights.
What if it is at the final round of play?
Only 3 key Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
All you need for sports in a sound. Bring you that breaking news right here on
Sunday morning, actor Demi Moore, classic rockers Pearl Jam, and we previewed the new season. Listen for the trumpet. Superstar approaching, superstar approaching. Stitch popcorn and get ready. I'm gonna show you. Oh yeah, I will and you will.
To tabulate all this, I am very hopeful that we're going to have not only a larger majority in the House to make my job easier, but we retake the Senate and the White House as well. That's what's going to happen.
That's House Speaker Mike Johnson expressing high hopes before many of the results were in for yesterday's election. And it's looking like his prediction is coming true, at least for the Senate. Scott McFarland has been working long hours keeping track of all of this. Joins us now to bring us up to date. Scott, good morning to you. So what are your thoughts on what Capitol Hill is going to look like come January?
Yeah, Gail, good morning. Trump's going to have some muscle in the U.S. Senate. I want to bring up the U.S. Senate, show you where we are as this morning begins. Republicans hit that magic number. They needed either 50 or 51 seats. Democrats were trying to nurse this very narrow majority. They stepped in quicksand early in the evening. They sunk deeper and deeper into quicksand as Tuesday evening progressed. West Virginia's Democratic Senate seat is going to go to the Republican contender, two-term Governor Jim Justice. He wins, and as you can see from those numbers, he won big. In Ohio, the neighboring state, Democrats are trying to nurse their Senate seat there with three-term incumbent Sherrod Brown, who served in the U.S. House previously, and literally wrote a book about Congress. Sherrod Brown projected to lose to Republican Bernie Moreno. Arizona was a spot where Democrats were able to play defense last night. Phoenix area Congressman Ruben Gallego looks like he'll hold that seat, defeating Kerry Lake, who lost the governor's race in Arizona 2 years earlier. But Democrats still face a murderer's row of races to try to minimize the damage here. In Michigan, a competitive race between two people challenging for a retiree spot. Democrat Alyssa Slotkin, the Republican is Mike Rogers. Mike Rogers, a former member of Congress. Slotkin serves in Congress now. In Nevada, Jackie Rosen trying to hold off the Republican challenger Sam Brown. In Pennsylvania, another one of those battleground presidential races, Bob Casey's trying to hold off Dave McCormick. You see how close these numbers are. You see how close these margins are. And in Wisconsin, another Democratic seat, another incumbent trying to protect the seat for the party. Tammy Baldwin with a slight edge now over Eric Hoffman. Oh, by the way, control of the U.S. House is also up for grabs. And at this point, it's too close to call. Narrow margins.
Let me go wake up this child. Open up my window. Don't take a nice shower. 6:20. Time to go wake his ass up.
New York Sports District on Long Island leans Democrat. That would be a win for Republicans. New York's 19th district, upstate. Democrats appear poised to win that one back from Republicans, but the Republicans made inroads in those presidential battleground states.
I'll leave you over here to watch this. I'm gonna go upstairs to look at the
All right, Scott, thank you so much. As we unpack election day and spring things forward, we're going to look at what President Trump's priorities might be when he takes office. We're watching CBS Sports.
All right, people. I'll be back.
that wants investigators for years. There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered. Clearly more news, more smart conversation, more money savings, more recipes, more uplifting way to get you on your way. Plus, more sports, more weather. Clearly more CBS Mornings. When my doctor gave me breast treatment for my COPD, I noticed things changed. Breast treatment gave me better breathing starting within 5 minutes. It also reduced flare-ups. Breast treatment won't replace breast implant if you're suffering from problems. It's not for asthma. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure. Don't take breast treatment if prescribed. Breast treatment increases risk of flush, constipation, and osteoporosis. Call your doctor if there's breathing, chest pain, palpitations, sweating, problems, urine, changes, or eye occur. Ask your doctor about breast treatment. Listen to these children posed to rush out. Your world is prepared for this trend. Definitely not. Going to be only something good. Right now, we got something crazy. For the stars. Yes, it's like this is pretty fun. Therefore, experience thought-provoking, innovative, and truly original performing because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday Morning. I'm a voracious consumer of information and constantly curious. I want to know the basic facts of every issue and to press into the heart of the matter. Information is the currency of democracy, and that's what we bring to the table every single day. We've got breaking news, great news. A lot of at the final round of play. And his volunteers should be planning another attack. This person is a closer look at the complex and two others, including some Americans who say criticism told one of the less dysfunctional and complex. His reports expose the system, the people responsible for it, and those pushing for change. I'm not fighting against them. I'm fighting for them to do the right thing. The watch list downstream militaries. Yes, exactly. I'm Sarah Moriarty of 48 Hours, and of all the cases I've covered, this is the one that troubles me most. Listen to Murder in the Orange Grove, Trouble Case Gets Mostly Green, wherever you get your podcasts. Listen to it. Superstar reporting. Get your popcorn and get ready. I want to, yeah. Oh, yeah, I will if you will. It's okay. Renting is fine. Fox Holds fair.
one's asking that yet. One of the very important keys to Donald Trump's victory was getting a larger share of votes from Latinos. So CBS News exit poll showed Trump got 45% of the Latino vote. That's 11% more than in 2020. Now that may be a record for a Republican presidential candidate. The last one to get such a large share of Latino support was former President George W. Bush, and that was back in 2004. He was the last GOP candidate to win an overall majority of the popular vote. We want to talk about this now with CBS News political analyst and GOP strategist Leslie Sanchez. I know you had a very late night too, Leslie. Good to see you this morning. But we have to talk about that Latino vote. You know, despite the racist comments that were made in Madison Square Garden very recently, he still received a big share of the Latino vote. I'm curious about why you think that is. At one point, someone on Team Trump said, "Listen, Latinos and Hispanics can take a joke." Do you think it was that simple?
I think it's a long time coming. I wrote a book called Most Important About Race, Why Hispanics and Republicans Hate Each Other back in 2007, talking about this idea of a realignment, the idea that the Latino population had been here for multiple generations, two big generations, that were very much upon Republican values, conservative, family-oriented, that many of us have been in the military, but what was distinctly different that I think that then and what I know now, that we all see now, is this is an economic argument. This is new and more like an economic to that middle class, that working class, who feel that they're left out politically, and they want to start having a voice. You're seeing that ripple effect in South Texas. It was happening over the last couple of elections like this over triple term ago, as the analysts were trying to determine was this a Donald Trump effect or was this a Republican kind of conservative effect. And what we found is it's a movement, but it was part of this working class movement, and Trump had moved into that. That's the growth you're seeing. So remarkably, to the final point, across the board, from the Sun Belt to the West Belt, you saw shifts in Latino voters, predominantly Latino men, moving to the Republican side and guaranteeing this big landslide victory.
Leslie, as Bill mentioned, those comments at the Trump rally at Madison Square Garden were offensive, and that was a reflection of what we saw throughout his campaign. You described it as decorum, especially over the last 2 weeks. Some would say the campaign became unhinged, and former President, now President, became even more unhinged. As a Republican strategist, how would you like to see him in office the next 4 years? Would you like to see him more presidential and leave the legacy that is sustained?
The interesting part of that question, especially I'm going to put it specifically to the Puerto Ricans, I believe that this might be a comment that we're related to the made out of a Trump rally. But in speaking to Puerto Rican voters, for example, in the suburbs of Philadelphia, they would say, in 2016, I voted for Trump. In 2020, I didn't like his style. I moved away from him. I voted for Biden. But this time, I'm going to come back around and vote for Trump. Do I like his comment? Absolutely not. It's not what I want my children to hear. disruptive type of president. We know that. And fundamentally, people heard this comments about Mexican Americans in 2016, crossing the border and all the these different things. But we felt that he was not speaking directly about them. He was speaking about a problem related to a porous border. So that distinction happens in the Latino community, and that's why he does garner such tremendous support.
So that distinction that you're talking about, Leslie, is so interesting to me, and I've long wondered, and we've talked about this privately, if now both parties need to stop thinking about the Latino vote as a model, because you mentioned Puerto Ricans, and that is very different, for example, than the way perhaps Cubans might vote in the state of Florida, a state that you know very, very well, and that is different from the way, for example, Dominican Americans here in New York City might vote, because the issues are different, and I think for too long, operators have treated the Latino vote just the same way that they treat the Black vote as a monolith, and maybe it's time to think about it a little bit different. How do you see it?
It's time to think about it differently. It's time to start thinking about us as Americans, right? The idea that we're broken down into these different ethnic groups and silos is not what the Latino voters are looking for. Fundamentally, the Donald Trump in this election was 45%. It's 45%. That's a historic amount of support of any Republican presidential candidate in history. He didn't win 50%, right? He didn't get 51%. But when Republican, especially at the top of the ticket, can get in that 45% range, they win down ballot and they win in a landslide that you saw in the Sun Belt, and it's moving its way across the country. So, to your point, issues that are important, economy is important regardless of their zip code, of their heritage, of their place of origin, and place of work, or even the language they spoke at home. These are working class, middle class families that are really struggling and they're looking for a way out.
Let's say before you go, are you personally okay with how he behaves as a Republican strategist? Was there ever a talk amongst yourselves that, boy, I wish it wouldn't do that, or are you okay with how he moves in the world?
Yeah, I come out from the Bush Republicans, a big part of the Republican Party as long as I've been voting, and this is not, I was a regular Republican, this is not the way, the reason I decided to go into public service. I expected to my time to lead, I was among, I would be good, and running into at the time with the style of our president and now soon to be President Trump. But I tell you, as times change, I feel his leadership is the right type of leadership for all communities, and especially in my community, because on the fundamentals of improving the economy, getting inflation down, and securing the border, he's the right person for the job.
A lot of people agree with me. Yeah, it transcends what Leslie basically saying. It transcends the economy, transcends race and class. Leslie Sanchez, always grateful talking to my friend. Thank you very much. All right, still ahead. The former president has said promises made, promises kept. We're going to take a look at what a second Trump administration is likely to look like for most Americans. First, time for a check your local weather.
I'm a voracious consumer of information and news. I am constantly curious and constantly want more to learn. I know I personally want to know the basic facts of every issue and to press into the heart of the matter. Information is the currency of democracy, and that's what we bring to the table. The justices ruled that Harvard and the University of North Carolina violated the Constitution.
Aftermath of the Supreme Court decision to end affirmative action in college admissions, uncertainty sets in for some students of color.
Affirmative action maybe some people up at the ends.
This is more than a historic decision and what it means for those chasing an opportunity to change their lives.
I knew that college was the ticket to break this cycle.
Affirmative action now streaming on the Free CBS app.
Your Holiness, Limonada, so wonderful to meet you.
It's a lifetime conversation with the Pope. You're about to find out.
When you look at the world, what closely does
Side to back shot. Get inside the choices of journalists. And in other cases, these people's group of lives go there with everyday broadcasts. Mission America. Wow. Watch it at a time. I Am America. That's on the CBS News. With Kerry going up to Chicago, there was one book I was too scared to look. It was called In. Did you know that this part inspired by an actual murder? Listen to Ken. True story. Find that murder that podcast. The Republican trial in this election was way beyond Donald Trump's business estimates. Republicans will take control of the Senate. They also have a good chance to take control of the House. If that happens, what would the Trump mission look like? Yeah, Robert Costa had been working around the proclamation positions last morning again, I should say. Bob, I'll start with you. What's the latest report from the Trump campaign? Great to be with you. Inside the Trump campaign today in Florida, there is a lot of celebration and planning. There's already discussion about how this Trump transition will look and who would staff this new administration at the White House and who would fill the key cabinet slots. There's a lot of jubilation of the Republicans because they have Senate control, control of the White House, potential control of the House. Will be able to enact possibly a very ambitious agenda. They're going over plans for the mass deportation proposal by former President Trump to go after undocumented migrants in this country. There's a push already to extend the Trump tax cuts from 2017. And you see the business community behind the scenes this morning rallying around Trump for the most part, believing that he is going to deregulate many of the industries in this country. It was interesting because he has said that he's going to free some people convicted for the roles on January 6th. Prior Special Counsel Jack Smith within seconds of taking office. Would any of those moves surprise you? I asked this, Bob, and Ed too, because when I was in Pennsylvania talking to voters, people would say, "Oh, that's just Trump and Trump." You can't always believe everything he says. Sometimes he just says things, but it doesn't mean he's going to do that. What do you all think? I would think those are two things he's going to do. At least fire Jack Smith for sure. Just representative overall. And we're going to probably see mass resignations of career attorneys that don't necessarily be there for not only there, but across the federal government. So that's one thing. The January 6th, defendants, we'll see exactly how that will go. I'm more curious to see what he does in economic law. The tax that they come to extend the Trump tax cuts for the wealthy. Can he make good on the campaign promise to end taxation for tips? That's what may have won him to that. It was such a popular issue that Kamala Harris had to go and adopt it herself. When talk to voters out there, they now expect him to do this for them. Bartenders who make $100,000 a year in tips in a good year want those $30,000 but they want to know, well, how would that be reported if I need to go buy a house or buy a car? And that will cost $250 billion over the next decade. That's something the Republicans are going to take on. So a lot of these campaign promises sounded great and may have been fuel for base, but the details of them, what they say, government opposed, campaign opposed, government opposed. Well, the question, of course, for Congress voted, as you both stated, who will fill those key cabinet roles? You're talking about folks like RFK Jr., is potentially going to be in charge of some kind of health apparatus in the United States. Of course, the question becomes, what does happen to those institutions, the Department of Education, the Justice Department, if Donald Trump is able to implement the type of people that will be very different from the first administration. The first administration had a lot of professional class, people with extensive experience in those roles. Might look different this time around. If you're just waking up and you see Donald Trump is now going to be president of the United States again, the former president to be the 47th president, you have to conceptualize a different kind of presidency on the horizon. Former President Trump, based on reporting at CBS News, believes that because the Supreme Court in recent months ruled that presidents have immunity, broadly speaking, when it comes to so-called official acts, that if he wins the White House, as CBS News has projected, he would be an empowered president in his view to have a tight grip over the executive branch of this country, to staff it with loyalists, whether it's the Justice Department, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Federal Trade Commission, all of these agencies that have his people. And there's a new movement around
Trump Jr., Tucker Carlson, J.D. Vance, the vice president-elect, Elon Musk, one of the world's richest people, all around Trump trying to overhaul the United States government. The United States, the American people have just elected someone who wants to transform the country and has a full confidence in his ability to command a political movement, to keep himself afloat, even if he has his critics in the Congress, in the press, or elsewhere. And do you think he'll be able to do that? Because what Don was right now, it sounds like a Trump presidency, since we know he's not going to run again. A Trump presidency with no confidence on any level. Constitutionally, he's not going again, but what's to say he's going to Trump? Yeah, right. And I think that's one of the fears that some supporters may have, is that he may try to find some kind of a way. Well, not supporters, critics may feel. But he has said this was his last campaign, this is his last time. We'll see. I would say one thing. I know there are a lot of people waking up this morning thrilled about this, and there are a lot of people waking up this morning confused when they heard about this. And I'm reminded of a guy named John I met in Wisconsin, Apple, Wisconsin. He said he was supporting the vice president. He was praying for her head. But he said, if she doesn't win, life goes on, and we have to move on, try again. It's important thing for all Americans, whether you won last night or you lost, you've got to be able to the country to move forward. And you can remember that in 2 years and in 4 years, we're not going to get what you said. Just briefly, to Ed's point, the key thing to watch today, what does President Biden say? What does Vice President Harris say? Watch. Thank you very much. Ed, always great to have you. Thank you both very much for that time.
Magic number has been 50 for Republicans to get control of the U.S. Senate now that Donald Trump's prevailed. They are at 52 with this development. CBS News is projecting in Montana the Republican will prevail and win this seat. Military veteran and political newcomer Tim Sheehy ousting three-term Democratic incumbent John Tester. John Tester has been a survivor in this seat. He's never shared a place on a ballot with Donald Trump, and he seems to have lost by a significant margin based on this so far. Watch the number, though, in the top right of your screen. 52 for now. Every number that ticks up gives Donald Trump more leverage over the Senate. All right, Scott McFarland, we'll check in with you a little bit later. Meanwhile, officials across the country say despite some long lines and Tony Rock threats, the 2024 election was fair and safe. CBS News election laws for every year. David Becker is joining us now. He's the executive director of the Center of Election Innovation and Research. David, good to see you this morning. So ahead of the 2024 election, you said the U.S. election system was more secure than it ever has been. How did we do last night? Well, it was definitely a political triumph for Republican Donald Trump last night. It's also a triumph of the Democratic process. Public servants in our election, the whole of this country did a remarkable job. It turned out that the second votes, record turnout in 2020. There was nonstop misinformation. There were bomb threats that seemed to appear from the adversaries. There were others that were navigated fantastically, and they counted ballots really fast, especially in really narrow margins in some states.
There was a 45, we're still waiting for Nevada, Arizona, and California. How long do you think it'll take before we get that final done?
Arizona has 200,000 votes counts still in Maricopa County, so we might not know what the presidential race there. Nevada has tens of thousands of ballots. Sacramento by mail, the very close Senate race there, very close House races in California. That's going to take probably 8 more weeks to get some of those more newer margins.
All right, so thank you. Thank you for staying up with us. CBS morning election coverage continues in our next hour. We're going to have all the top results that we have so far. And the story behind former President Trump's historic return to the White House. You're watching CBS Morning. Show that. We'll be right back. We got something for you.
Take those back out. Talking to him? Yapping, why don't you say something to him? Shut up and say something here. Then I tell him hurry up so you can get to the bastard. Every one of us, but damn what I stand up for. You need to be a friggin' bastard. You picking up people, be worried about his ass after get to the fucking bastard.